Everyone knows that we came from the sperm of our father and the egg of our mother. But how is it that we became us? How is it that we have hands, teeth, and legs, and all of our body parts? In order to understand that, we have to go back to the original cells. So the sperm from our father fertilizes the egg of our mother, and together those two cells form a zygote. A zygote is a totipotent stem cell. A totipotent means that it has its potential to become any cell, and while the zygote is a stem cell, it means that it's undifferentiated. It's an undifferentiated cell that can divide indefinitely. The zygote has the highest potency. Along with the totipotent level, there are two other levels of potency, which are pluripotent and multipotent. Pluripotent means that the cell has the potential to become any cell but an embryonic. Multipotent cell means that it has the potential to become more than one type of cell, but not any cell. The zygote starts to divide into 2 cells and 4 cells and 8 cells. And once it has turned into 8 cells, the cytoplasmic determinant, which are also transcription factors in the cell, starts to settle at the bottom of the 8 cells, at the bottom half of the 8 cells. This starts to form a difference between the top half and the bottom half of the cells. The top half becomes the animal pole, while the bottom half becomes the vegetal pole. In an experiment, scientists found that the top half of the cell mass cannot become a complete organism, which proved that the top half and the bottom half of the cells have already determined and are already forming a difference in their roles. And at this stage, all the cells are multiple because they cannot become essentially any cell they want.
So this cell mass is called a blastocyst, and there are 2 parts of the blastocyst. There's the outer cell mass and the inner cell mass. Eventually, the inner cell mass will flatten and condense and turn into a disc, which is called the gastrula. This will happen when the blastocyst is implanted into the uterine wall. So the gastrula consists of 3 layers. The top layer is called the ectoderm, which will eventually form into the nervous system and the skin. The middle layer is called the mesoderm, and that will eventually become the muscles and the skeleton. And the bottom layer is called the endoderm, and that will eventually become our digestive tract and pancreas. So, in each cell, we have a gene called the homeobox gene, and it's pretty much the blueprint for our body and serves as a master switch turning on and off our genes. In the example of a fruit fly and a mouse, they both animals have a eyeless gene, which tells the animal where their eye should go. When the mouse eyeless gene was put into the fly still developed an eye in the right place because it still had the gene, which just generally tells it where it should go. So homeobox genes serving as the master switch turn on and off genes, and they activate morphogens, which are proteins that are part of the morphogenesis, which is a concentration-dependent process. So basically, in the case of a hand, if you're trying to make a thumb and you're in this area of the hand, there's going to be a higher concentration of the transcription factors and growth factors that tell you to build a thumb. So if you're in a higher area, the morphogens are going to bind to the receptors of those cells, and they need to be activated by a phosphate group or something of that nature. Once they're activated, they will release transcription factors, which will activate specific genes, telling your hand to become a thumb. So the genes will act as a second transcription factor, differentiating the cell and giving it a new identity. So basically, that is how your thumb will form, from it being in a higher concentration gradient of that transcription factor, growth factor, and as you get farther and farther away, you're going to have less and less of it, so less genes will get activated, but the genes will still tell your hand what type of thing should be. So that's how we go from zygote to human.